Certainly.
Here is Section 1, Gathering Clouds of We Bring the Storm, written with a minimum of 700 words. ## Section 1, Gathering Clouds. The wind howled across the cliffs like a morning chorus, dragging mist and ash through the dead trees. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled, not sharp and sudden, but slow and brooding, as if the sky were holding its breath. Cale stood at the edge of the cliff, his hood drawn low, eyes locked on the roiling clouds above. He could feel it in the air, static buzzing at the edges of his skin, that old pull in his bones. A storm was coming, and not just the kind that split skies and shattered oaks.
The world was shifting. Again.
He turned from the edge and started down the narrow path, boots crunching frostbitten leaves. The ruined watchtower he now called home rose like a broken tooth from the hillside. Moss crept up its stones, and vines choked what remained of its battlements. Once, this place had been a signal point during the border wars. Now it was a grave, and Cale its sole caretaker. Inside, the hearth crackled weakly. Cale knelt, tossing in more twigs, hands trembling not from cold but from restraint.
Fire was safe. Predictable.
It obeyed kindling and time. Storms, though, storms obeyed nothing. He hadn't touched the sky in 2 years. Not since the day he'd razed the Citadel of Thorns and buried 3 legions under a mountain of lightning. People still spoke of it, in whispers. They called him Stormbringer. Others, less kind, called him Butcher of the Sky. A knock at the tower's splintered door snapped him from the fire.
He froze.
No one ever came here.
Another knock. Firmer.
Cale rose slowly, cloak rustling like thunderclouds gathering. "Whoever you are," he called, "you've got the wrong ghost." The door creaked open before he could bar it. A woman stepped inside, tall and lean, eyes sharp as flint beneath a rain-slick hood. She peeled it back, revealing short dark hair, a scar slicing one brow.
"Cale of Stormwatch," she said.
He eyed her warily.
"Not anymore."
She smiled thin, dry. "You say that like it matters."
Cale studied her.
She was armed but not threatening.
Agile, fast. Not Dominion. Something else.
"I've come on behalf of the Tempest," she said. "Name's Naira."
Cale stiffened.
The Tempest was a name wrapped in rebellion and blood. A rogue faction trying to shatter the Dominion's rule and bring balance to the fractured continent.
Idealists. Suicidal.
"Not interested," he said. "You haven't even heard the offer."
"Don't need to.
I've done my time with causes. All they bring is bodies."
She stepped closer.
"This isn't just a cause. The Dominion's building something that'll end any hope of resistance. The Eye of Dominion. A weapon that bends weather, storms, the skies themselves."
Cale's face hardened.
"Stormcasters can't be controlled." "They don't need stormcasters," Naira said quietly.
"Not anymore.
They found a way to anchor storms to machines.
Artificial tempests. Precision strikes. No emotion.
No mercy." Cale looked away. The fire crackled between them. "You think hiding in this ruin keeps you safe?" she pressed. "They're hunting anyone with Stormblood. You'll be a target whether you help us or not." "I've killed too many in the name of control," he said. "Too many who never saw it coming."
"And if you don't help, more will die," she snapped.
"You can keep pretending your silence is peace, but it's just another kind of war."
Cale's jaw clenched. Outside, the wind picked up.
The tower groaned in protest. Then came the thunder, louder this time.
Closer.
He moved to the narrow window, watching the horizon. Clouds churned like something alive. A bolt of lightning cracked through the sky, distant but jagged, angry.
He closed his eyes.
In the dark behind his lids, he saw the past, the battlefield, the screams, the surge of power, and then silence.
Charred earth.
Friends and enemies alike reduced to smoke and memory. He felt Naira beside him, not touching but present. "I dream of the storm," he said. "Not because I miss it, but because I know it's waiting." Naira was quiet for a long moment.
"Then, maybe it is.
But this time, we choose where it lands." Cale opened his eyes. The clouds seemed darker now.
Hungrier.
He turned from the window, shoulders heavy with memory, but also with something else.
Purpose.
Slowly, he pulled the storm-marked bracer from a drawer, strapping it to his wrist. Silver and black, it gleamed with etched lightning.
"You have a map?" he asked. Naira blinked, then nodded. "And a plan."
Cale walked past her and out into the wind. The air was charged. Above, the sky growled like a beast waking from slumber. Behind him, Naira whispered, "They'll know you're coming."
He didn't look back. Good, he said.
Let them feel the storm again. Would you like to move on to Section 2, Lightning Strikes next?
Certainly.
Here's Section 2, Lightning Strikes of We Bring the Storm, with at least 700 words. Hashtag Section 2, Lightning Strikes. The wilderness between the highlands and the eastern corridor was vast, scarred by war and storms alike. Forests stood half-burned from years of magical conflict, and the soil often crackled with residual energy. The wind carried ash and the faint scent of ozone, the only sign that stormcasters had once walked this land freely. Kale and Naira moved quickly through the thickets and crumbled paths, keeping low and quiet. The Dominion patrolled these routes, and it didn't take long before their presence was felt. They found the first patrol by accident. 2 Dominion scouts crouched beside a creek, examining a set of rebel symbols etched into a fallen log. Naira froze, her hand going to the hilt of her dagger. Kale, still cloaked and hooded, lowered his voice to a murmur.
We go around.
Naira shook her head.
Too close to the outpost.
If they report the markings, the entire squad will sweep the area. Kale didn't argue. Instead, he held out his hand, fingers splayed toward the sky. A faint vibration echoed in his bones, light, like a prelude. He reached into it carefully, like one might ease into an old wound.
A breeze stirred. One scout looked up.
A soft crack of thunder sounded, not near but not far. Enough to draw their attention skyward for the second. Naira needed to disappear and reappear behind them like a shadow. Her daggers moved in clean, efficient arcs. By the time Kale lowered his hand, both soldiers were dead, their eyes still lifted toward the clouds. Naira exhaled slowly and wiped the blades on a patch of moss. You're rusty, she said dryly. You're welcome, Kale replied, already walking. They pressed on, silence settling over them again. After hours of steady movement, the land began to rise and shift. Jagged stones broke through the underbrush like the ribs of an ancient beast, and then the remnants of carved stairs appeared, old, worn, almost invisible beneath vines and decay.
Kale halted. We're close, he muttered.
Naira looked at the stone.
This is it. He nodded.
One of the last Stormcaster sanctuaries before the Purge. They were scattered across the continent, temples where we trained, channeled, connected with the skies. She followed him as he ascended the stairs. Each step seemed to thrum faintly, like an echo of power long buried. The sanctuary was in ruins. Collapsed pillars lay half-buried under ivy. A shattered dome let rain fall freely onto the cracked altar below. But in the center of it all stood a single obelisk, tall obsidian, untouched. Lightning-shaped runes pulsed faintly across its surface, like veins of light under skin. Kale stepped closer, something in his chest tightening. They tried to burn it, he said softly. But stone remembers. He placed his palm against the obelisk. The storm responded. The air around him grew heavy. Clouds gathered above with unnatural speed, spinning slowly like a great wheel in the sky. Naira took a step back, watching as his eyes glowed faintly silver, and wind tugged at his cloak and hair. Electricity kissed his fingertips. Kale trembled, not from fear, but from recognition. This was the power he had buried for so long.
Not just destruction. Not just death. It was connection. Voice. Will. Sky. Then he let go. The wind slowed. The clouds broke apart. The moment passed.
When he turned back, Naira was watching him with something like awe. I've never seen anyone call the storm without speaking, she said.
It's not speech, Kale replied. It's listening.
They didn't linger. With dusk falling, they crossed the old pass toward the rebel outpost hidden in the gorge below. From the cliffs above, Kale could see flickers of light, torches shielded by makeshift barriers, tents dug into the earth, the rebellion living like foxes in burrows. As they entered, guards flanked them immediately, but Naira held up her hand.
He's with me. Stand down.
They passed into the main tent, where a map-laden table sat surrounded by grim-faced leaders. A tall, broad-shouldered man with a braided beard and storm-gray eyes turned at their entrance.
Thalen, Naira said. This is Kale.
Commander Thalen didn't offer a handshake. I've seen you before, he said. Your lightning buried half my squad in the Battle of Crestfall. Kale met his gaze evenly. And I lost mine in the same hour.
Silence. Naira cut in. We need him.
The eye is almost operational. Thalen gestured at the table.
We know.
Dominion engineers accelerated testing. We plan to strike in 4 days. We may have less. Kale looked at the map. Dominion outposts, supply routes, airship towers. All converging on a fortress marked in red, the Eye. He pointed at a cliff east of the fortress. There's an old skygate here. Long abandoned, but if we could reactivate it. We can't risk another. He can do it, Naira interrupted. You saw what he did at the sanctuary.
Thalen looked between them, unconvinced.
And what happens when he loses control again? What happens when he turns that power on us?
Kale stepped forward. Then you put me down.
But until then, I suggest you let the storm do what it does best. And what's that?
Thalen asked. Kale's eyes darkened. Break.
Would you like to continue with Section 3, Eye of the Storm next?
Certainly.
Here's Section 3, Eye of the Storm from We Bring the Storm, with at least 700 words. Hashtag Section 3, Eye of the Storm. Kale stood at the edge of the rebel encampment, staring up at a sky that churned with clouds but refused to break. The air was heavy, thick with tension and the low hum of coming war. It reminded him of the hours before his first battle, the silence of men who knew their lives were hanging by a thread, too taut to tremble. A distant rumble echoed from the horizon. Third one today, Naira said, stepping beside him. The weather's wrong.
Too consistent.
It's not weather, Kale murmured.
It's the eye.
They're testing it again. The fortress housing the Dominion's weapon loomed far to the west, nestled atop a massive plateau surrounded by sheer cliffs. A mechanical monstrosity shaped like a crown of spires, the eye had once been a mountaintop temple to the storm gods. Now it had been gutted and rebuilt with steel, gears, and pulse engines. Dominion engineers had forged a weapon capable of creating storms, not born of nature, but twisted and directed, artificial in every sense. It wasn't just a threat to the rebellion. It was a threat to the balance of the world itself. Back inside the rebel command tent, Thalen laid out the plan. We've scouted 3 entry routes.
2 are suicide.
The third is insane. Kale leaned over the map.
Good.
Insanity's more reliable. Thalen narrowed his eyes. This route, he pointed to the cliffs on the northern ridge, leads to the old Skygate station. You said you could reactivate it.
I can.
And you're sure it'll hold for airships?
No, Kale replied.
But I can make the storm carry them.
Naira smirked. Thalen sighed.
We strike at dawn. If we wait any longer, they'll finish calibration and flatten our entire resistance network in one sweep. You're sure you're ready for this?
Kale paused, then nodded.
Ready or not, the storm is coming. That night, sleep offered no refuge. Kale dreamed of fire and lightning, of cities burning beneath black clouds. He saw Naira screaming through the chaos, reaching for him before a wave of energy consumed her.
Then came the voice.
Asterisk, you are the eye now. And the storm does not weep. Asterisk. He jolted awake, gasping. Outside, the wind had picked up, howling like it remembered too much. At the edge of the camp, Naira was watching the horizon. She glanced over as he approached, her expression unreadable in the moonlight. You look like you've seen death. I see him every night, Kale replied. Naira leaned against a rock. You know, I always thought stormcasters were cold.
Above it all.
Dangerous, sure, but not human. He gave a dry chuckle. We aren't above anything. We just fall harder. She tilted her head. You think you'll lose control again, don't you? Kale looked away. The last time I used my full strength, I killed everyone.
Enemies. Allies. Civilians.
The lightning didn't care. I didn't care. But you do care, Naira said quietly. That's why you haven't touched the sky since.
He met her eyes.
And what if caring is the very thing that breaks me?
She didn't answer.
Instead, she reached out and took his hand, slow, deliberate. Then don't carry it alone. For a moment, they stood like that, storm-blooded and stone-hearted, 2 broken pieces trying to hold each other steady. Just before dawn, Kale climbed to the highest ridge and performed the ritual. Not one the Dominion taught, but an ancient communion passed down through whispers. He etched the runes into the stone with his finger, the lightning responding like an old friend called from exile.
He knelt. Opened his senses. Let the storm speak. He heard screams. Laughter.
Thunder that wasn't real.
And something more. A presence. Immense. Watching.
The storm was alive, not just a force but a will. It had chosen him once. It was watching to see if it should choose him again. I don't want vengeance, he whispered. I want balance. I want peace. The winds howled, then went still. Lightning arced across the sky in silent reply. When Kale returned to camp, the air was different. Heavy.
expectant.
Thalen met him at the ridge.
Something changed, he said. Kale nodded. The storm knows. You've stirred something, Naira added.
Let's hope it listens. Then came the cry, Scout Flare. They're activating the eye. A red streak cut across the sky, followed by a tremor that shook the earth beneath their feet. From the direction of the Dominion's fortress, clouds began to spiral inward, unnatural and luminous. They're starting early, Thalen growled.
We launch now, Kale said.
But the airships. I'll give them lift, Kale snapped. Get everyone ready. As Thalen scrambled to rally the troops, Kale climbed onto the launch platform and raised both arms to the sky.
Thunder cracked, not above, but from him. The storm broke.
Winds surged beneath the rebel ships, lifting them like leaves. Bolts of lightning danced between hulls without burning them, as if guided by an unseen hand. The clouds darkened to charcoal, then flared electric blue. Kale stood at the center of it all, eyes alight with stormfire.
We bring the storm, he whispered.
And the storm answered. Would you like to continue with Section 4, We Bring the Storm now? Absolutely. Here's Section 4, We Bring the Storm of We Bring the Storm, written with at least 700 words. Hashtag Section 4, We Bring the Storm. The sky was no longer sky, it was a war. Lightning split the clouds in a lattice of blue fire, arcs dancing from airship to airship like a living web. The rebel fleet, a cobbled-together convoy of stolen Dominion carriers, storm-rigged gliders, and hastily patched skystalkers, soared toward the eye with an energy it had never known.
Not from engines. Not from pilots. From Kale.
He stood atop the lead ship, exposed to wind and rain, arms spread wide as if welcoming the chaos. His cloak snapped like a battle flag behind him, and his eyes burned silver. The storm didn't resist him, it embraced him. It had chosen him again. Below, the Dominion fortress shuddered to life. Massive gears groaned as a hidden chamber opened in the mountain's face, revealing the heart of the eye, a cyclopean mechanism of rotating discs and crystalline coils. Lightning was drawn from the sky into the spires, fed through the machine, and aimed downward.
Controlled. Harnessed. Perverted.
Kale felt it before he saw it, the falseness of it.
The pain.
This isn't power, he growled to no one.
It's a cage.
Behind him, Naira appeared at the helm. She'd never flown before, but she moved like she belonged on the deck of a storm chaser. She gripped the wheel, shouted orders to the smaller gliders, and directed the airships in formation like an orchestra of thunder. They're powering the central spire, she called out. If they fire before we reach the ridge, we lose half the fleet.
Kale nodded.
Then we don't give them time.
He leapt.
Not down into the hold, but off the edge of the ship. Gasps rose behind him, but he didn't fall, he flew. Lightning cradled him, and the wind lifted him like a bird of prey. He cut through the air, hands trailing sparks, until he crashed into the nearest Dominion defense tower like a comet. The impact shattered the turret, tossing steel and screaming soldiers into the storm. Kale rose from the wreckage, smoking and smiling grimly.
Tell your storm to follow, he murmured. And it did.
The clouds above broke into a spiral, focusing on the eye like an iris locking on prey. Bolts of raw energy screamed downward, not random, but precise. They struck defense batteries, fried Dominion signal towers, and sent enemy ships veering wildly through the tempest. Thalen's battalion used the chaos as cover, gliding in from the east, unloading rebel stormtroopers into the lower terraces. Explosions echoed up the cliffs as the rebels charged. Inside the fortress, Dominion engineers scrambled. Their commander, a pale woman clad in silvered armor, screamed into her comms. Target the lead caster. Overload the spire if you must. Kale heard it all, through the wind, the vibrations, the pull of energy that now ran through every cell of his body. They wanted to kill him? Good. Let them try. He soared again, landing atop the eye's central chamber. The storm twisted around him like a living thing, roaring with every breath he took. His boots sparked on the steel as he approached the control node, a raised platform of interlocking crystals and brass channels. And then it happened. The spire fired. A blast of pure, artificial lightning erupted from the machine, targeting the rebel fleet. Kale threw up his arms and screamed. The storm inside him surged. Real lightning clashed with forged, nature against machine. The sky screamed. The blast redirected, just slightly, enough to miss the heart of the rebel ships and strike the mountain instead. Rock exploded in a shower of molten stone. Naira saw it all from the bridge, heart hammering. Kale was holding back the impossible. No other caster could do that. Not alone. And yet he stood barely. I can't hold it, Kale grunted, dropping to one knee. The eye was drawing from the storm now, feeding on it, growing stronger. The Stormcaster was no longer just channeling lightning, he was battling it.
Then he saw it. The core.
Beneath the control node, past rotating rings and glowing matrices, sat a single crystal unlike the others, black, smooth, humming with energy.
The source. The heart.
Kale clenched his fists. He had one more storm left in him. He stood, raised both hands and called.
Not to the sky. To the storm inside. Pain lanced through him. His blood boiled. His breath became wind. And then, he released it.
A bolt of lightning, thicker than a tree trunk, struck the core with apocalyptic force.
The eye buckled. Circuits burst. The crystal cracked.
Then everything exploded. From the rebel ships, it looked as though the mountain had been struck by the fist of a god. Fire and light poured upward as the storm screamed one last time, and then fell silent.
The storm died. The clouds broke.
Sunlight poured through for the first time in days. Kale collapsed on the shattered remains of the spire, body broken, but alive. Naira reached him minutes later, half running, half stumbling over debris.
You did it, she whispered. He coughed blood, then gave a weak smile.
No, he said, barely audible. We did. All around them, the storm was gone. But the world had changed. The eye was broken. And the Stormbringer had returned. Would you like me to proceed to the final section, ***, section 5, the silence after thunder ***?